Richard, so in 2025, as well as some of the opportunities, what do you think are some of the biggest hurdles facing retail and leisure businesses?
Well, I think the macroeconomic environment is still going to remain quite challenging, but I think it's really important to put context behind that because the industry has gone through so many waves of disruption. We've had COVID, we've had the cost of living crisis, we've had dislocated supply chains and geopolitical instability. So actually thinking about what businesses have had to cope with over the last few years, I think what we can expect in 2025 is probably a bit more predictability, a bit more stability. Bearing in mind there are of course lots of other geopolitical events that are still playing out. From a consumer perspective, I think the good news is that of course inflation is back down towards target, hovering around 2.5%, so that's good news. It's rebuilding some confidence. Interest rates are they're kind of on a slow downward trajectory, which is positive news in terms of spending power. What our research showed is that there are three major concerns. They're worried about ongoing cost of living pressures, they're worried about a weaker economy, and they're also worried about lack of savings.
There's still opportunities for modest growth, and I think overall, I think we're facing into a year where there will be improving consumer confidence, certainly for different affluent groups. I think what's really important is that you really understand your customer. You need to remain relevant, and you really need to pivot and deliver what that customer expects. For a lot of people that we're talking to, and certainly from some of our research we've done, the best advice is don't wait for the changes to impact you. You certainly need to be on the front foot, especially when you think of things like what's going to come from the autumn budget and further forward. You need to be forward thinking. You need to be sort of glass half full. Sector's already done a lot to mitigate energy costs, rising inflation, and wider pressures facing their businesses. What do you think are the best ways to stay on top of changing consumer behaviours?
Retail is such a fascinating industry, and actually if you think about the way that we used to shop as teenagers, certainly I used to shop as a teenager, the customer journey is almost unrecognisable compared to today's Gen Zs. And so today's young consumers are discovering things on social media platforms, they are researching things on social media, they might then be inspired to go into store, touch, feel, experience the brand, maybe get out their smartphone, order something in store, order 4 pairs of jeans, get them delivered to home and take the 3 other pairs that they don't want back to a locker in terms of returns. That customer journey is so much more difficult for retailers to measure, to understand and react to. And that's made the business model so much more difficult to adapt to. So whether it's social commerce, whether it's the explosion of marketplaces, whether it's pre-loved, whether it's the impact of things like Gen AI, there's so much disruption happening in the industry, and retailers need to just embrace that change. They need to invest in their innovation, and really crucially, I think they need to adapt, to have a more adaptive business model, and really have that at the heart of their business.
For the businesses, I think it's really important that you invest in the right areas, that you attract the right members of staff. You know, don't ignore sustainability. You have to be forward thinking. Our Future Fit research recently highlighted actions you needed to take to secure a long-term advantage. That was about prioritising change. It was about using data to maximise your business decisions. It was about working closely with your valued partners, about embracing change, about looking after your workforce. Richard, digging a little bit deeper, thinking about all those behaviours that we've spoken about, how do you see retailers adapting and approaching personalisation?
It's a really fascinating question, actually. It's at the heart of a lot of the conversations I'm sure C-level boards are having at the moment. At the heart of this is about looking at consumers through more of a unified lens, looking at that customer journey where they are being inspired by different motivations, whether it's on social media, whether it's through search, and search is going through a lot of change, whether it's on a website or marketplace. But stitching together all of those different elements of the customer journey to try to create that one single view, and that being a really key component of providing a much more personalised customer journey that brings together digital elements, physical elements, all into one kind of holistic journey that appears much more frictionless for consumers. What our research really clearly showed is that digital transformation will remain a priority for 2025. And it really depends on different businesses, where they are in their digital transformation journey, the kind of digital sophistication that they already have and the competencies that they have in their business. But what the research showed is that they're going to focus on three main areas around cybersecurity, around that ongoing investment in creating a seamless customer experience, and then also really putting omnichannel at the heart of their business. And what our research actually showed is that businesses, retail, hospitality and leisure are expecting to invest about £7 billion in 2025 as they continue to put digital transformation at the heart of their strategies.
I think the reality is, the cost challenge that faces the retail and leisure industry will continue to rise. There's steep tech advancements. You need to prioritise, where will that maximise the benefit for your business. You need to mitigate some of the labour costs to focus on your talent, and you need to remain relevant in your chosen market.
What do you see as the benefits of responding rapidly to consumer demands?
One thing the report really highlighted was that positive business sentiment is being driven through technology and development. It actually improves overall customer experience. It improves loyalty from your staff, operational efficiencies, and better revenue growth. What does the report tell you about digital development, and what do you think is the most exciting part?
I think one of the most exciting areas is around Gen AI. And of course, there's a lot of attention that's placed on how retailers are going to integrate Gen AI into their operating models. So this might be around better demand forecasting, it might be around supply chain optimization, it could be around better personalisation and more targeted personalisation. I think less focus is placed on how Gen AI might impact consumers. And I think the gap in our understanding is probably wider there, because we've seen, for example, a huge amount of change in just search and how consumers are using search engines. So we've now got a Gen AI overview for search. And so that has got the potential to change the way that consumers are searching for products, the way that they are interacting with retailers. It's more intent-based, it's more conversational. And so that can have a significant change. But I do think that in 2025, it might be the year where we see Gen AI agents that are going to really impact the way that consumers are interacting with brands, and we've got Gen AI agents that might be searching for on our behalf. So I don't think we're too far away from walking down the high street, double tapping on your earphones and asking your Gen AI agent to search for the nearest restaurant, Italian restaurant that's got a top table rating of no less than 5 stars. You want to book tonight at 7 o'clock, and it will look for all of these different options and then come back and book things on your behalf. I think the reality is that retail is becoming increasingly complex, and it's really important for businesses to continue to invest in technology to remain relevant and actually to continue to be ahead of the curve. So David, what sustainability improvements are we seeing driving revenue growth?
Our Future Fit report highlighted that 78% of businesses recognise being ahead in sustainability is actually a competitive advantage. I think it's really important that you understand your customer. The younger and the more affluent are willing to pay. Sustainability is a key part of that decision-making process. I think it's really important that you work with your supply chain to drive supplier resilience. And I think also we can't get away from the fact that business obligations to reach net zero. What do you see from the consumer perspective?
I really agree with your point around there's a big question mark over whether consumers are willing to pay for more sustainably produced items. And I think the evidence shows that they do care about sustainability, they care about brands embracing sustainability, but I think there's an element of doubt over whether or not they are actually willing to pay for it. And our research does back up that it's younger consumers and actually more affluent consumers that are willing to pay more for sustainably produced products. But actually I think that most consumers, it's almost like a minimum standard. They expect retailers, brands, hospitality, leisure businesses just to do the right thing. And actually I think that businesses that don't do the right thing just risk alienating their customers.